Hello, welcome to Food for Thought. Today's topic is positive thinking. In 1952, Norman Vincent Peale wrote a book called The Power of Positive Thinking, which has sold over 5 million copies to date. The basic concept of the book is that our thoughts are a mighty power that's always shaping our lives. This shaping is usually done subconsciously, but it's possible to make the process a conscious one. The idea is that when we can form our thoughts about ourselves, about life and the world around us in a positive way, our lives will get better. There's a huge self-help industry that's grown up around the concept. Studies have been done with astronauts, Olympic athletes, the military, and many others, and they all seem to point to the fact that this concept really works. Those in the field of psychology called it cognitive restructuring. In fact, the very definition of psychotherapy is that it is the process of changing self-defeating attitudes into constructive ones. In other words, teaching people to use the power of positive thinking. Perhaps you've been to workshops or seminars that teach one form or another of this concept. I've been to a lot of them, and I've designed and taught some of them. People seek out those seminars because they want to improve their lives. So, if you've been to one of those self-improvement seminars, let me ask you, how did it work out for you? Did you go to the workshop and suddenly your life was turned around? As my great-granddaughter might say, it got all better? Most people take a few good ideas away from the workshop, but they quickly discover that becoming a whole new person, becoming a positive thinker, well, it's a hard thing to do. A recent study in the journal Psychological Science shows that trying to get people to think more positively can actually have the opposite effect. The study by Joanne Wood and John Lee of the University of Waterloo and Elaine Perunovic of University of New Brunswick shows that when people get very positive feedback or are asked to believe ideas that are overly optimistic, they reject those ideas and they end up feeling worse. If the only thing a person does to try and turn their lives around is to try and think positive thoughts, well, they may actually be setting themselves up for failure. Why is that, you might ask? Well, let's just stop and think about it for a minute. When a person attends a self-help workshop, they've already been living their lives for a while. They've accumulated 20, 30, 40, maybe more years of experience that creates their view of the world around them and their view of their own place in that world. What's more, the reason they decide to attend the workshop is usually because they weren't real happy with that worldview. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't what they wanted. So do you think that in a one-day or a week-long or a month-long workshop is going to cause them to throw away all that experience? Oh yeah, I've been wrong for 20, 30, 40 years. I'm really a perfect human being. The world isn't out to get me at all. It's not very likely. That isn't to say that a person won't get some great ideas and insights. If the seminar is good, they'll have some aha moments. But permanent change takes time and work. Before you can incorporate the new regime of positive thinking, you got to deal with all the stuff that's already there. There's no creating of a new you until you acknowledge and put into perspective the old you. You can't fill the closet with new clothes until you rearrange and perhaps even get rid of some of the old clothes. As you can see, this could be a major undertaking. Usually is. So, if you're on a journey of transformation yourself, or you'd like to be on such a journey, what can you do right now, today, to get started? Lao Tzu, who lived about 500 years BC, said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." So, let's look at a couple of single steps that you could start with right now that'll move you forward on that journey of transformation. And the first step is to become aware of what your current worldview is. This is a journey of self-discovery, and it's likely you're going to find that there are things about yourself that, well, you want to change. The exciting part is you'll find many wonderful qualities that you will want to keep. Begin the process by becoming an observer of you. Several times a day, take a few minutes to look back on what you've done so far that day and how you felt about yourself and about the world when you were doing it. What are the things that you were positive, enthusiastic about? What are the things you were negative about? And here it can really help to keep a journal or in some way take notes, maybe electronically. Just observe. Don't judge what's good or bad. Don't try and fix anything or change it. After a few weeks of doing this, you'll begin to discern things. You'll begin to see patterns. You may see things you want to change. You might want to change positive attitudes, negative attitudes to positive ones. Pick one thing that you want to change and really explore it. When does it happen? What triggers it? Where do those feelings come from? Are they justified? Can I look at it another way that's more in line with the new me that I want to create? Remember that if the changes you want to make are totally unbelievable to you, you may not be able to make the change. Take believable baby steps. This is very specific work, focusing in tightly on one particular area at a time. You may find that some things cannot be changed, or perhaps cannot be changed right now. So move on to another area. You can always come back later. The second thing I'm going to suggest to you is easy to do and something that many people, including myself, have found very effective in building a positive life. It's to develop an attitude of gratitude. And you do this by making a conscious effort to identify the things in your world, in your life, that you're grateful for. It could be little things like the fact that you had blueberry pancakes for breakfast. Or it could be big important things like your job or your significant other or relationships. It could be something on the world stage. I find a good time to do this is just before bed. No matter how terrible the day was, I promise you there were some things to express gratitude for. Maybe something as simple as the fact that the weather was nice or someone smiled at you in the diner. There are always things to be grateful for. Initially, you may need to train yourself to see them because for a long time you may not have been looking for them. And then there's the question of who do you express this gratitude to? Well, it's sufficient that you express it to yourself. But if you want to thank others or thank a higher power, that's perfectly okay too. The important thing is that you give thanks, not so much who you thank. I would also like to suggest that you get a gratitude stone. This is mine. It's just a small stone or object that you carry with you in your pocket or purse, and each time you see it or you feel it, it reminds you to take a moment and express gratitude for the good stuff in your life. Now, you can go online and buy all sorts of stones. Just do a search for gratitude stone. But I suggest you take one out of a nearby stream or some place that has meaning for you personally. Doesn't have to be something fancy or blessed by some juju lady. Why does this work? Well, quite simply, we tend to take the good things in our life for granted, and we focus on the bad stuff. Before you know it, most of what we think about is the negative things. Consciously expressing gratitude calls to our attention the fact that there is already a lot of good going on in our lives. It also gets us looking for more good around us to be thankful for. So, if you're seeking to transform yourself, there are two easy things you can start doing. The first is to become aware of the positive things and the negative things in your personal worldview. Write them down or record them so you can examine them in detail. The second is to begin a process of frequently expressing gratitude for all the goodness around you. Oh yes. Find yourself a gratitude stone to help remind you to be grateful during the day. I hope this has been helpful to you on your life journey. Let me know how it works out for you. And love and blessings to you.